or good afternoon, and welcome to our session. I'm here, Carol from Sunset Learning Institute, here with James and Brad. James, our specialist that will teach us and help us knowing a little bit more about your career journey and CompTIA. So, James, thank you again for joining us. Always a pleasure working with you and grabbing a little bit more about your knowledge. I will launch a quick poll in a few seconds. James, you can start, and please, you all answer our poll since this poll help us guiding this session through your knowledge and adding more value to the teaching that we are presenting to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Carol. I really appreciate it being here, and thank you everyone for joining in. How you doing, Brad? It's good to have you here along with this session.
Yeah,
So,
good to see you, James. In fact, how many cities have you been in just the last few weeks? Because I have seen you at some other webinars. So,
good question. Let's see, last few weeks, let's see, four, I think,
okay,
because I did something in
good.
Seattle. I live in Olympia, and then Baltimore, and just before that, I was in the UK. I'm going back next week.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's been an interesting whirlwind. After that, I'm in South Africa, and then all over Asia. So that'll be
good.
it's been a busy time now.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks very much, James. So let's get started, and you can tell us your story behind A plus.
Sounds like a plan. And I will, it's because it is all about A plus. How you doing, Texas? So greetings from Seattle. That's where I'm joining in from. So I'd like to know everyone, where are you from? And I'm going to put my LinkedIn there as a way of introducing myself. James Stanger, I do a lot of travel for CompTIA as the Chief Technology Evangelist. And I'm lucky enough to go around and talk to people who need things, and one of those needs is technical support. But it's more than just technical support, and that's why we entitled this webinar "Well Begun is Half Done." If anybody is a Mary Poppins fan, and by Mary Poppins I'm referring to the original movie back in the, was that a 60s movie or a 50s movie? 60s movie. uh she once said that Mary Poppins said, "Well begun is half done." I ain't no Mary Poppins, but I can talk to you about career journeys. I'm not bad at that. And so Brad and I are here to talk about not just CompTIA and what we do, but what we can do for you in your career journey. Because CompTIA does play a critical role in the ecosystem out there having to do with tech. We bring people into tech. We bring tech to people. It's kind of how I like to look at it. We certify people. We work with partners such as Sunset Learning, and I'm happy to be here. Just a bit more about myself. I've been in the tech space now since well, probably forever, but certainly since the late 90s. I got a PhD in unemployment, English literature. And by that point, I decided it was time to transfer back into tech where I belong.
Yeah.
So I want
So
to talk about steps for beginning your career. Go ahead, Brad.
yeah, James, we got a couple of poll questions up on the
Yeah,
screen. First
good.
one is main goal for attending this session. We just want to get an idea of what you're looking for. The other one is the biggest challenge, let's say so far. Okay. And James, I imagine you have a couple of stories from the field that while we're filling this out, maybe you have one or two stories in tech that you might want to relate to, something from a someone from a help desk or somebody that forgot something or a cybersecurity hole or something like that,
You bet.
without
Well,
mentioning any companies.
sure. I was recently talking to somebody who is a help desk manager. She lives in Nigeria. And one of the things that she said jibed, conformed, matched exactly what somebody who leads a bunch of help desk folks for the US government said. She said what she looks for in a hire, in a new hire, is somebody who has enough of a foundation, a strong foundation technologically, so that once they evaluate the person's people skills, they've got a match there. And it's really important to get that match of the people skills and the technical skills. So I'm going to talk to you today, not just about a job role, which is cool. I mean, everybody wants a job, but about how you can start with that job role and move on. So there's a bit of a story.
So, Kara, we
So
got results that we can post. Are we
yeah,
still
what you got?
collecting that?
There are the results. Let me take a look at them
Yeah,
here.
very
So
good.
you're here to learn about the CompTIA A plus cert and a bit
Yeah.
in hiring trends. Okay, so we'll get right in to what A plus is all about. First of all, why A plus? Why is it important? First of all, folks, A plus is a certification. You get the A plus certification by taking and passing two certs. Okay, two cert exams. So that in a 50,000 foot level, if somebody would say, what is A plus? You could say it's a way of starting your career, or it's a way of preparing for the job role of service desk, help desk technician. There are a lot of different names out there for essentially the similar thing. And it's a way to show how people A plus is a way of upskilling people so they learn about tech and they learn about the technologies that are needed at the help desk and the approaches. So let's talk about some steps for beginning your career. And it was interesting, Brad, we had Carol on from Brazil, you're Canada, and I'm in the United States. So we've got the Americas pretty well represented here. So it's good to see things international. And I see Tunisia here
Yep.
online. And Carnegie, I don't see where you're from exactly. I guess I could click on your LinkedIn. There you are. See if I can figure out where you are. Cloud First Partner, good to see you, man. I can't tell where exactly you are, but let's talk about the steps that you can take. First of all, I like to talk about the pillars of IT as a way to drill down. Hey, Bolivia, how you doing? Hey, South Carolina. I like to talk about the pillars of IT. That is an aqueduct. I took that picture here a couple of years ago in Spain. And that aqueduct is a piece of technology that was used clear until, from what, 100 AD until about the 1970s, I think, 1980s. Hey, Abraham, Guinea. I have not been to Guinea. I have not been to Guinea or Bolivia, actually. So, but these pillars that I want to talk about, there are six of them. See if I can count right. The pillars is the idea of, because when people talk about tech, everybody kind of has their own idea, I think, about what a tech job means. Now, A plus, again, couple of exams and a course that Sunset Learning can tell you all about, and I'll tell you all about it too, that is designed to help people understand the foundational elements for all these pillars, or it helps you understand job roles that go along with the infrastructure and support pillars there. Do you see where it says architect and see where it says infrastructure and see where it says support on the right? So infrastructure on the left, support on the right. A plus specifically drills down into the support and infrastructure side of things. But here's the deal about A plus. You don't just stay at a help desk job unless you want to. There are people who will stay, they call it ITSM, IT service management. And you could stay at the help desk level, become a manager if you want, or you can move on to cybersecurity, or you might like the idea of coding, of developing stuff. You might go into data analytics. I know a person named Tim Niles, who was an IT person. He got A plus, Network plus, and Security plus certified, and then started working with HR people. And he's now was HR consultant and does data analytics, but he started in the tech space. So you never know where your journey is going to take you. But let's get back into the infrastructure and tech support type things. I mentioned help desk, technical support. These are some of the ways that we do it. And we can drill down into these pillars and even look at this eye chart of a slide that shows 90% of the job roles that exist right now. We in the IT space love to give multiple names to one thing. So
Yeah,
you'll
and James,
notice, oh yeah, Brad.
just a quick mention. I see AI engineer on that list.
Yes.
Was that there 5 years ago? Probably
No,
not.
no,
And we
it
don't know
wasn't.
what's going to be on this list 5 years from now. So
That's right. That's right. And this list will change over time. But one of the things that won't change is we will need, if you go about on the left-hand column, about what, 8 things down, you'll see IT support specialist. You'll see help desk support specialist. Those won't go away anytime soon. A lot of people think, well, with AI, a bunch of these jobs won't exist anymore. Now, I would argue that those job descriptions might change, but they're still going to be around. I remember 25 years ago, maybe even more, saying, well, with the advent of automation that's going on in the year 2000, in the year 1999, why would we need a help desk person? I mean, most computers back then were starting to be sealed. You couldn't even open them up to fix the computer particularly. And nowadays, today's computers, today's mobile phones, how often do you really open them up? You can, I get it, you can. But usually they're replaceable as an entire unit, not very efficient. And there are a lot of philosophical problems with that and environmental problems with it. But here's the thing. Help desk jobs have actually gotten bigger since we stopped fixing things. Doesn't make sense, does it? Because help desk and technical support have less to do with fixing broken hardware and more with fixing broken applications or broken authentication or broken elements of peripherals, things like printers and things like that. So there's a software element. So the job role has stayed the same, but the wine inside the old bottle has been replaced. So I want to talk more about what it means to get this job and to get this job and how relevant it is. Now, take a look at these circles on the left-hand part of the screen. These are the areas with the largest skills gaps. So you notice cybersecurity is in there. That's a big thing that people love to talk about. Software, data. But notice IT support is an area that remains relevant, and there are skills gaps in this area. I think a lot of people think, well, we don't need tech support anymore. Trust me, we need it more than ever before. It is a serious area. Okay. It's not just all about AI or all about cybersecurity. So that's what I wanted to get across with this slide. And it's a really important area because IT support is not just one thing. You can very easily move from an IT support career into networking. And IT support is kind of like being an Uber driver, as it were, for tech, because an Uber driver receives a ticket. And I'm not talking about a parking ticket or a ticket, a speeding ticket. I'm talking about a request. And then that Uber driver fulfills that request. I think we all have jobs that are very similar. We get a request that represents a ticket. It could come in via an email, but a help desk person will get some sort of notification that somebody, James, is having a hard time launching an application. And your job is to go in and resolve that problem. And it might be with an application that won't run or the operating system won't boot. Well, what's causing that? Is it a bad video card? Is the hard disk failed? Is it a power supply problem? But even beyond break fix, if somebody can't log in, why not? Is there some problem with what's called the domain name system? The domain name system is the system out there that allows you to type in www.comptia.org or amazon.com or whatever, rather than trying to remember an IP address. Is it possible that system has failed for that particular computer? So if a person's having a hard time launching an app on a mobile phone or something on their smart watch or their wearable isn't working right, your job is to troubleshoot those problems. Well, how can you get into that? But well, let's talk. But I think it's really important to understand that every month at CompTIA, we do something called a Tech Jobs Report. This is every month we take a look at what's going on. Sometimes certain job roles have increases, sometimes they have decreases, etc. If you take a look at the tech support specialist, yeah, there were 548 fewer jobs this month posted out there in the US than the month before. Which means that, clearly it's a job role that's diminishing and it's going away and, nobody needs it. I'm kidding. Trust me, we need a lot of these. There's always going to be flux. And it would take many, many months. And by many, many months, I don't mean 5 or 10 or 20. I mean years for that job role to go down to where, oh yeah, we, remember when there were tech support careers. Trust me, there are. This is what I wanted to point out. And this is a resource that you can go check out. And we don't just come up with these terms and these numbers and this information willy-nilly. We do really serious work in understanding the job market out there. So tech support specialist remains a thing. But there are trends out there I want you to be aware of. And as you go throughout your career journey, I think it's really important, as you see with my kids there, we were climbing up a trail it doesn't look as steep as it was. That's really steep there. And that's my wife kind of figuring out the situation, kind of taking a look at the trend, as it were, of that particular path. First thing first, Tech has become more critical to organizations than ever before. And that sounds like, well, what do you mean tech is more critical? Trust me, there are organizations, I don't care if it's governments, enterprises over the last few decades that frankly have relied on paper and analog processes much more than they ever should. And they're realizing you can't do that anymore. Tech has become more critical. And this is something I learned from Shamal, who I got to know at a conference in Australia, and we talked about this. He, like many others, when I was in Baltimore last week, I talked to representatives from IBM, from Zscaler, from companies all around who are basically saying we need people who understand how to support critical technologies. And that critical technology could be a Salesforce implementation that's in the cloud. Salesforce allows salespeople to keep track of their clients and keep track of the money that they're making and the company's making. You, as a technical support specialist, might be asked to support a tool like that to make sure all the sales folks can use it properly. There's a tech onslaught, meaning it's constantly changing. This is Julie Byerly. She talked to me about in Atlanta about this, and she shares the same sentiment with CIOs, Chief Information Security Officers around the world. It's always changing, and we need individuals to have the right foundation of understanding. I mentioned something called DNS earlier. If you'll learn more about that. That's what I mean by a foundational technology. If you don't have that as you begin your career, things will not, you'll be confused about things moving forward. I know people who never properly learned DNS, and it represents a weakness in their learning for the rest of their lives. But all you have to do is get the right foundation and all these pillars, and you're fine. Tech is becoming more complex. This is Vandana Verma. She lives in India, and she, like many other security professionals, understand how complex technologies are. But don't worry, if you have the right foundations, you can tame that complexity. This is a guy named Mr. Cochran, and he's a really cool guy. And he talked to me about the importance of understanding endpoints. An endpoint is your mobile phone or a workstation or your PC, your notebook computer. It could be your smartwatch. He's a cybersecurity analyst. He's a cybersecurity professional. And he said most people really don't understand all the ways in which an endpoint works, from storage and things like that. We also need help desk workers who understand all of these elements. This here is the NCSA Incident Response Team in Thailand. You could say, well, wait a minute, incident response, that doesn't sound very help desk. Here's the thing, a lot of people's first cybersecurity job is not a cybersecurity career. Their first cybersecurity job is actually going to be maybe help desk, and then they move into cybersecurity. So you can start your career pathway. Now we're seeing a lot of trends. This is information that's we just published this, I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Tech is changing more than ever before. That's what I mean by onslaught. And check out where we need number 5, digital fluency skills. You could argue that A+, or maybe Tech Plus, but especially A+, gives you a huge advantage of understanding how digital fluency is working, okay? And understand how things are working. And certification, as I mentioned earlier, the 2 exams that you take to get your A+ certification is widely recognized as an effective predictor of future job performance. Really important to understand that. So there's a whole pathway you can engage in here. And notice where A+ is here. So you could argue that if you're just really brand new to tech, that maybe IT, what we used to call ITF plus, it is called Tech Plus now, might be a better starting point for you. But A+ is where you really start moving into professional level understanding of things like how endpoints work, how storage works, how network cards work, how networking operates, things like that. And you'll notice we have pathways at CompTIA. We have the infrastructure pathway, the cybersecurity pathway, the data pathway. And those kind of conform to the pillars that I was talking about, like the development pillar, the data pillar, the cybersecurity pillar, the infrastructure pillar. Notice where A+ lies at the foreground of that, and where it starts kind of at the beginning. That's where you can begin your pathway. So again, it's 2 exams right now. It's there's the numbers that are given. A+ core is the 220 1201 exam, and A+ core 2 is the 220 1202 exam. we have training available for you through Sunset, and Brad will be able to talk to you about what that is. But each exam is made of different domains, which is a fancy word for sections. Let's see, I think the core one, I think, has 5 domains, 5 sections, and the second exam has another 4. But just like, don't get overwhelmed with all of those elements. Just think of it this way: how do you eat an elephant? What's the saying? One bite at a time. And so you can do that here, one bite at a time, either BITE or BYTE at a time. So you can take these exams at a testing center or even your home. You'd set up your room in such a way that you can remotely take it. It's kind of a time-consuming process to set the room up just right so that you can take it from your notebook computer and everything, because they want to make sure you're not cheating and that it's a good environment that you can take the exam in. It's easier for me to just go to a testing center somewhere else, but you train with Sunset Learning, and there's a URL to learn more about it.
Yep. And James, those
Yeah.
1200 series, those are the latest, greatest versions that just came out about, what, a couple months ago
It's a
or
really good
less?
question. I should have said that. Yes, those are the latest and greatest versions. There are the 1101 and 1102 that will still take for a few months, but I've just kind of focused on the latest and greatest ones that were just released in March of 2025. So that's just, a month ago or 2 months ago, depending on how you look at it. So thanks, Brad. That's a great point. One of the things is very quickly, why get certified? I think there are 2 reasons why you take A+. One, it prepares you for those job roles that I was talking about, drilling down into the infrastructure or specifically the support pillar: help desk, service desk, tech support, field engineer. So field engineer, for example, I know one person who got A+ certified who ended up climbing into towers, believe it or not, cell phone towers, and updated the software that ran the cell phone towers. You'd open up a cell phone tower and then update the software that made it possible for all the thousands and millions of cell phones that are connecting to that tower. You updated the firmware. Firmware is kind of like an operating system, but instead of you interacting with it, it kind of runs in the background. Any computer that you have has firmware and software. You interact with the software, with the OS, but the firmware kind of runs in the background. So a help desk person answers tickets and says, okay, let me see if I can help that salesperson. But A+ can also be seen as a solid tech foundation. Take a look at that huge railroad viaduct. That's what it is, or a railroad bridge. There's a train that would run over the top of that. That thing would topple over in a second if it didn't have the right foundation, kind of like our careers. If we don't have a good foundation in networking and cloud and a little bit in cybersecurity and things. So A+ as your tech foundation teaches you what I used to call the tech trifecta. It teaches you a bit about cloud, about things like AWS. It teaches you how data centers work. That's not the cloud. A data center is a building that has a ton of computers in it that you could use. The cloud is basically a regional resource where you can use their computers. And then on-premise. On-premise means a server room that you could walk in that might be a couple of floors below you or above you somewhere, or even across the hallway. But nowadays, as Yoda would say, there is another. And the another is operational technology. And A+ will teach you about the cloud, about data centers and on-prem and operational technology. Operational technology is simply this. When was the last time you got some water out of a faucet? Well, operational technology makes sure that there's water in that pipe. And operational technology means that somebody is sitting in front of a computer and making sure that the water flows through that pipe at the acceptable pressure level, or you control the wind turbine generating wind turbines that you see. Operational technology is basically the use of a computer to control a physical resource like an escalator or an elevator or a diesel motor, things like that. So you're going to be supporting elements that are in the cloud and data centers, on-prem, and operational technology. And people, you have to talk about AI, don't you? Everybody has to talk about AI. I like to think of AI as something that is information architecture. In other words, you can't have artificial intelligence, you can't have ChatGPT unless you have somebody supporting the architecture and the infrastructure that makes it all possible. So as a tech support person, you might be somebody like my nephew Eli Lovin. That's his name, Eli. And he had a job for years before he moved to Japan. He had a job for years where he basically supported an Oracle data center. He'd get a ticket, and the ticket would show up a little message and it'd say, "We think that there's a hard disk number 200 in this data center is going to fail." And that hard disk in that data center basically supported Oracle Cloud. So, and it was specifically for government. So there's a lot of top secret stuff going in there. And he said he felt like Indiana Jones because he would go up to this huge bank of things, of hard disks, and he had to change the hard disk a certain way. He said it was kind of like at the beginning of the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he would pull out the disk that was failing and very quickly put in a new one. It was kind of like balancing, when he took when Indiana Jones is stealing that what is it, the idol, the head, and then he had to put the bag of sand in there. He said he had to do it about that quickly. So he learned how to change out those hard, and in that case, hardware devices. But he said most of his support wasn't even hardware based. He had to go in and say, well, here's a problem with an application that's not launching because it ran out of memory. And so we have to allocate more memory in the cloud and things like that. So you still have to understand memory, but you may never even touch a physical memory module. You just may adjust it in the cloud. This is what I mean by getting the right foundation, because A plus gives you the fingerprints of technology. And by fingerprints, I mean understanding what memory means, understanding how a video card works. AI requires tons of cycles processing to do its thing. I mean, today, one of the big problems of AI is it uses a ton of electricity and a ton of hardware. That's why electricity rates go up. That's why they're talking about creating nuclear power plants everywhere to support AI, and why you can't buy a video card these days, because they're all being used for AI. As a tech support person, you'll be supporting things like that either virtually, because AI has many layers, and one of those is hardware. One of those is software, and you will be supporting one of those layers. And there are many other layers that you could be supporting when it comes to AI. So you'll be understanding something called virtualization. Virtualization is the idea that it used to be, oh, okay, we need an operating system. Well, here's your box. Stick an operating system on the box, in the box, and make it run. Well, with virtualization, you could actually run multiple operating systems inside that one box. First time I ever saw virtualization, I walked by a box that was about as tall as I was, about this wide, about as tall as I was, and they were virtualizing, I think at that point, about 300 or 400 individual instances of Windows and another 300 instances of Linux on the same physical machine. Back in the day, it was just a one-to-one deal. One box, one operating system. Now I can launch, even from my PC, probably 5 or 6 virtual Linux operating systems right from my system. And that's called virtualization. But you need networking knowledge and a basic understanding of cybersecurity and even a little bit of development. You're not going to become a coder with A+, but you'll be able to create applications that automate tasks, that clear the network cache, or check on the ability of your network card. Is it really working? So little things like that. It gets you your start along the way.
Yeah,
Key
James,
skills.
talking about the
Yeah.
layers of tech, there is a good question that's come in. I'm
Oh,
not sure
okay.
if you can see it, but I can read it off for you.
Great.
Would entry-level IT roles require a bachelor degree if one has the A plus certification?
Great question. There are a lot of companies that do still require a college degree. It's a slow, I think, progress for companies to say, you know what, a degree is useful or the equivalent. And you're seeing a lot more of that. But there are still companies that require it. So if a company requires a bachelor's degree, who am I to say they're necessarily wrong? Um, I would argue that most enlightened companies, there are tech companies such as Google. There are a lot of government now directives that have come out in various governments saying that a college degree is less important. So I would argue to get this career, it does depend on the job role postings, but you're seeing a lot of job role postings now realize we need more workers and we don't need to put an artificial barrier up. And so they're requiring fewer and fewer degrees. That is happening slowly. Is that the question?
Yep. And I think there's a good combination of the tech skills and the soft skills. And we were talking
It
about,
does.
when you're looking at a job and they say entry level would be, you need 10 years of Kubernetes, but it's only been out for 5 years. So there's that type of thing that happens. So
I call that overspecking. One of my
yeah,
favorite quick stories. A person had created something, an application, and it just took off. He thought it would maybe have 2 or 3 thousand downloads, maybe 20 or 30,000 downloads. In just a matter of months, there were millions of downloads of this piece of software. And it was about 6 months in. 6 months in, that software existed. It didn't exist before, so 6 months. And he saw this, to your point, Brad, a job posting that said, yeah, here's a great position, must have 3 years of experience in that piece of software. Okay, that only existed for 6 months. Think about that for a while. So that happens a lot. That happens a lot. Thanks, Brad, for that. Conversants. This is what A plus gives you, and that's something I learned from these folks. Some of these people are developers. Most of these people here, these people that you see, are people that work at the help desk side of things, and they talk to me about the word conversants, and that means you understand what a CPU is, what a GPU is, your video card, what virtualization is, what a MAC, a machine access code address is, how the cloud works. You don't have to become a cryptographer, for heaven's sake, but you do need to understand how encryption works, how keys work, symmetric key encryption, asymmetric key encryption, hashing, understanding of peripherals. These are the elements that are important to understand to make you conversant. And this means that you can be a good conversant help desk worker, but also somebody who might move into networking or into cybersecurity or something else. So there are additional skills, understanding how mobile devices work. What can and can't you fix along those lines? What, more importantly, services and software do you need to understand how to troubleshoot these things so that you can help somebody log in and authenticate and use their mobile device properly? Understanding of networking, what an IP address is, Internet Protocol address is. And it gives you the basics of understanding how routers work. You're not going to become a router and switch configuration specialist with A+, but you'll become conversant enough to move into that. No question. Yeah, hardware, but software in a big way, you'll be doing that. Understanding storage and things like this. You need to understand different operating systems, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, which is basically Linux on a mobile phone, iPhone, which is basically Mac OS, a version of Unix on the iPhone, Chromebooks, consoles, things like that. You'll understand how to troubleshoot doing software and operations. You'll learn about something called the OSIRM. Not going to go into this in a big way, but this model here describes how computers network today, how computers sold by different vendors that have completely different approaches, a Windows system and a Mac OS, a mobile phone, an Internet of Things device, operational technology, some sort of SCADA system out there, how they all can communicate with these layers.
yeah, and
Physical
James,
layer.
those
Yeah.
7 layers, they're funny because a lot of the training that you'll get, you'll have the instructor will give you ideas of how to memorize this, and they'll come
Yeah.
up with different acronyms. I just remembered PDN TSPA, so I just remembered that, and then just from bottom up and go from there. And I
Yep.
think on your next slide, you've got your own little layers
Yeah, I do.
on top
And
of that.
the way I remember that with that is, let's see, physical layer. See how it starts with a P, and then there's your D, and there's all that.
Yeah, PDN
Please
TSPA. Yep.
do, yeah, please do not throw a sausage pizza away. About that.
There you go.
Okay.
So that's what
So
you have looking forward to, learning the A plus
yeah,
stuff. So there you
so
go.
and
Yeah.
believe it or not, you at first you'll be like, geez, Louise, this is so theoretical and silly. But
Hmm.
actually, this is a key to the kingdom of understanding things because you're going to learn in your career about additional layers. And these additional layers, I have my tongue a little bit in my cheek there. That layers 8, 9, and 10 are not official OSI RM things. This is official stuff that when people create applications and hardware and software, they live this stuff. But 8 and 9, understanding how to work with individuals, how to understand the policies and processes of an organization, and compliance. You see, once you get those 7 real layers, then you'll really understand how they map to the rest of the company. And you'll find that 8, 9, and 10 are actually just about as real and very important. But see, if you get the foundation here, then you'll understand all these different layers. I like this picture here. Took this in Japan and was that Kobe? No, Kyoto. beautiful shrine, and it has thousands of these gates. And I think A plus gives you a gateway, but it also notice how they're layered. And I think it's important to understand this. So here is the Core 1 exam. Remember I was saying it was 2 exams, right, Brad? We were talking about that. This is the first exam, the 1201, I think it is. Well, it is. And I mentioned earlier it was domains. So there's 5 domains: mobile devices, networking, hardware, virtualization and cloud, and hardware network troubleshooting. Now, at this point, you should feel very intimidated, like, oh my gosh, I can't learn all this stuff. Um, you know what's even more intimidating? Not having somebody outline this for you. And the reason I bring this up is, to quote a friend of mine, uh, at CompTIA, we don't just come up with this because we have a couple of mad scientists that we put down in a basement where they belong and they come up with this. We didn't even come up with this from a few universities that got together. You're looking at these domains. These were created by literally thousands of working network uh, help desk professionals and their bosses. So these things, you could argue we crowdsource it, but really what we do is we work directly with real working professionals with these domains. So see, to me, it's great. This becomes your subject matter expert. This becomes your mentor. And it's scalable. Look at that. It's like this tells you what to study and what not to study. Man, I didn't have this. I had fun doing it, don't get me wrong, but it was very inefficient. This is designed to make your job of learning more efficient. Now, I'm not going to go into all of these details here, but so notice these are the 5 domains. Here's domain 1, just a little bit of a dive into it. Notice where it says you can mobile device hardware and then replace certain things. I don't know about batteries, but keyboard keys and all that. But notice the next one. Here, what are the accessories for connectivity, for getting things mobile, for getting things, connected, how USB works, how Lightning works, Bluetooth. So you see, now we're getting very quickly into the software side of things. On the networking side of things, in the second domain, you'll learn what the transmission control protocol is and what UDP is. Those are the 2 ways, basically, that network information is transferred. An IP address is like an address of your home. The TCP and UDP ports are kind of like the openings of your home. In other words, your IP address and your street address. And then how can you get into your home? Well, there's doors. I don't know how many doors your home has. How many, what, 4 maybe mine has? 3? I can't remember. 4 or 5. How many windows does it have? What about the chimney, right? Those are all openings, as it were, to the home. It's kind of like that with ports. So you'll understand that and get the DNA of these kinds of things. On the hardware side, you'll understand things about displays, for example, about video cables and all the different types of adapters that are out there. When it comes to virtualization, you'll understand how sandboxing works and what a virtual machine is like. If you've ever launched a web browser on your notebook computer before or your computer before, imagine instead of just launching a web browser, you click something else and you could launch a Linux system right from your Windows system and interact with it just like you would a web browser in a sense. And yet it's a completely separate operating system. So your existing Windows system becomes a host to multiple virtualized systems. And you can virtualize 2 or 3 additional Windows systems right from within yours. Pretty cool.
James, we have another question, if I can just quickly interject here, and I'll read it off to you. Yeah, so would documentation / project management be an essential skill when applying for an IT role?
Project management is absolutely a very important job role. It used to be back in the day, a project would last a couple of weeks or something. Now projects last months. So yes, project management is huge. A plus doesn't teach project management, but it allows you to understand all of the different elements that are within a project. So yeah, project management is something that's an absolutely worthy concern for you to get. If you were to get A plus and say Project Plus, we sell that at CompTIA, a very good project management cert. You could really become somebody who understands how to implement a project, implement a solution, a tech solution very well.
Or even ITIL, not CompTIA based, but ITIL is a good feeder into that.
Terrific way to do it. ITIL, look it up. It's really cool. What's great about ITIL, where A plus kind of says, here's how you become a tech support professional. ITIL teaches you how different elements of tech, so tech support, cybersecurity, how different elements all work together. It gives you a very nice 50,000-foot view about how information technology systems work and play well together, or should work and play well together. So ITIL is very cool.
Yeah, so on the project management side, I think you can start off with a CAPM, CAPM, and then morph into a PMP. So there's that option if you're looking at project management, and then ITIL is a good PM based skill set to have, and then go into your networking side of things.
Big time. Yeah,
Good.
I think a good pathway to go by would be you could do ITIL, you could do A plus, and even something kind of more cloudy, cloud oriented or something, and then Project Plus. You could do something really well. You could do really well with that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, James.
You bet. Thanks for that question, folks. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. So there's virtualization, and there's the hardware and network troubleshooting. I like to say that CompTIA really specializes in the ability to teach troubleshooting, to teach how, if there's a problem, that you can identify the root cause of that problem rather than addressing the symptom. Back in the day, 300 years ago, if there was a fever, people thought the fever was the disease. Nowadays, we know that fevers are caused by diseases. So yes, you can treat a fever, and that's usually can be a very good thing to do. But let's get to the root cause of what's causing that fever. Could be an infection, could be a virus or whatever. Same thing with troubleshooting.
So I think you're saying is more than just saying, try shutting it off and back on again.
Yeah, just kind of the random moving of mice and clicking check boxes, and maybe this will work. It's like, no. Let's find out what the root cause here is. Like if a car is acting up, and well, put new gas in it, or put new spark plugs in. It's like, well, if the transmission has a problem, none of those things is going to fix it. So you got to get to the root cause and trace things, trace problems properly. That's what A plus does. So it's very hands-on and very practical how it does things. Here's the Core 2 exam. It has 4 domains, and it focuses on the software side even more. So you could argue Core 1 is a little more hardware, and then Core 2 is all about the software, operating system, security, software troubleshooting. And so, again, here's a bit of an excursion through the first domain, where you learn about different operating system types, and you'll learn about firmware and how to upgrade things. And this is where you learn about security measures. And one of the things that is interesting about help desk is help desk jobs have become a bit more cybersecurity oriented. The reason being, at the help desk is one of the first ways that a professional can identify and go, that problem that's happening in this computer isn't just something going wrong with the operating system or with DNS or with an application. It's being attacked. So you could argue that help desk folks are one of the first lines of defense in terms of security, and that's why that's in there. Troubleshooting software, the idea that given a scenario that you can identify specific issues and start that branching off. And by branching off, it's like, well, okay, let me look at this. It looks like this problem is not so much with the application. That's the symptom that's not running. It's the operating system that is causing that application to fail. And so is it that where I need to go? And see, this is the way you save time. Because A plus was created by corporations, huge ones, that basically realized their technicians were wasting tons of time. So they all got together with CompTIA and said, look, that's where you need to learn these basics. And when you say that you're A plus certified, that way corporations, somebody hiring you can go, okay, this person won't waste my time or the time of my end users. Because if there's a bad support call, think about this. Not only are you wasting the time of the A plus certified or not A plus certified person, you're wasting the time of the person you're supporting. So it's double money. So it becomes very expensive if it's not done right. And this operational procedures here, this begins to explain a bit of ITIL, but what it does is it basically shows how you document issues. If you find an issue, you can consult a knowledge base to educate you. A knowledge base is basically a list of solutions. But also that you can, if you find something that's never been written down before, that you can sit there and write down the solution so that the next person who comes after you can go, oh yeah, that was solved by James. I just saved myself an hour and the person I'm supporting, that person's hour. So now 2 hours have been saved because you wrote down something. So how does A plus compare? This is not meant to show how it's better or worser than anything else, but there's Microsoft Certified Fundamentals, there's IDLE Foundation, Cisco CCST, just the idea that these are other offerings that are out in the world. They're all good. You can see CompTIA A plus has 2 exams. They're 90 minutes each. And Sunset Learning will prepare you to get comfortable with taking these exams. One of the last things I wanted to talk about here is that along your pathway, as you take step by step along the way, it helps you learn new skills. See, today, automation is a big deal. And I would argue that artificial intelligence is kind of a form of automation. It's self-sufficient. It learns by itself, usually the wrong thing, but you have to guide it so it learns the right thing. But it's a form of automation. You're going to find that in the future, whether it be updating SSL, TLS certificates that allow encryption to happen, we're using them right now, these certificates. Automation is going to be the thing that helps us. Does that take away jobs? Will automation go, well, wait a minute, James, if you automate stuff, maybe help desk jobs will be automated away. I would argue that certain, I've seen it over the last 20, 30 years, that certain elements of the help desk that were very important 20 years ago are less important now. Break fix is a lot less important than it was. When I say break fix, actually fixing physical devices. But for every one of those jobs that went away, 10 have been created by advances in automation, advances in the cloud, in cybersecurity. So it's very important to understand that there is, people will call it shift left. That's a phrase, shift left. In other words, to begin the A plus, your A plus journey, to begin your journey into tech, it's actually, that first step has actually gotten larger and larger over the years to take. In other words, if there's a step along the way that used to be 2 inches tall, well, now it's 10 inches tall. You have to kind of lengthen your stride to get that first step going. A plus has reflected that. It is more difficult to get into that entry level job than it was earlier, I would argue. But see, A plus helps you get past that. So automation is one of the major trends. You're also seeing operational technology and IT working together. And see, if you learn A plus, you're going to be able to support not only IT, the green there, but also that gray, that operational technology. Technology. And this is a big deal because you could end up working with smart cities. You could end up working with operational technology that controls dams or pipelines and things like that. You'll find that the electrical grid, all that. I like to put it in personal terms. You'll be supporting operational technology that allows me to get into my hotel room. In this case, you're looking at an application that failed. The digital key didn't work. That was a tech support issue. It had to get fixed. And then even more importantly, that one on the right there, during COVID, you weren't allowed to touch anything. Remember that? And if I went into Five Guys, once they allowed people to do that, when I went into Five Guys to get my hamburger and my Diet Coke, I couldn't even touch the Diet Coke machine. I would put the cup in there and step away from it and use my phone, literally use my phone and an app to pour myself the Diet Coke. So they didn't want me to touch the machine. Well, one day that failed and I couldn't get my Diet Coke and tech support people solved the day. So I'm being facetious, but understand it's this kind of interaction with the world that you're going to be supporting. This here's something called a TLS certificate. And this is a certificate for Amazon. Certificates like this, probably 100 of them, 200 of them are in your computer even as you speak. You're going to find as a tech support person that sometimes you might have to update the database, the collection of certificates. It's things like this that you can do once you become A plus certified, Core 1 and Core 2, to learn more about it. And you'll be able to not only work on just physical computers or cloud virtualized computers and things, you'll be able to do that. But see, you're going to be supporting how the business works and communicates. And see, this is where it becomes a conduit, a pathway, the beginning step, so that you could learn about applications, for example, or data, or cybersecurity, or networking. It's just kind of your way of saying, okay, I got started with A plus and it opened up huge career moves for me. And I think that's really important to understand. So we offer pathways for your career. Let's see what I took that picture. One of those is South Africa. The other one on the right is Jamaica. And then that middle picture I took in Spain, of all things. Pretty cool. There are pathways that are open for you. And you can learn from AI Essentials to Tech Plus, which kind of sits before A plus. And once again, there's A plus there. That allows you to go into infrastructure careers. It allows you to go into cybersecurity, but it can get you that first job as a tech support professional. And Sunset Learning has an option for you to learn more about these things. And I think, Brad, you're going to tell us a bit more about this sort of thing.
Yep. Or Carol, if you like, you can jump
Carol,
in.
sure.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks,
And
Carol.
you can help me too, Brad. So, as I just launched our last round
Oh,
of
okay.
polls. This helped
Oh,
us
good.
too. So
Cool.
please answer for us. And yes,
Yeah,
we are offering this opportunity to upgrade your career. Brad, jump in.
yeah.
You
So
know more than
yeah,
me. So
yeah. So basically, what we're offering 50% off with A plus courses that we have, and that is good until July 25th with that promo code that you see there, and it will get you the two courses that you can prepare for. And again, as James mentioned, the A plus, I believe it's a good root
Yes.
foundational start. And if you're looking for a career, you're just trying to figure out where you want to go, what you want to be, type of thing. Yeah, A plus. Start with that. Look at Network Plus as the next step, and then Security Plus, and then go from there. If you like the cybersecurity side of things, or you can branch off and do some project management if that is of interest. And there's always AI side of things too. But I find that in cyber area, people that are good at cyber actually have good foundational knowledge of networking
Yep.
infrastructure. So, and of course, James, I think we went through a webinar. We didn't even mention the three-way handshake. So there you
That's
go.
right. That's
So
right.
three-way
That's
handshake, it's something that you need to know. So, Carol, is there anything else we can pop up on the screen here? Or are we going to look at doing a wrap up? I don't see any other questions. Oh, do we have another poll? There we go.
yeah, there it
yes,
is.
we are
Yeah.
running.
Yep. Okay.
But from my side, all good. All yours and James.
Okay, so let's do the poll. If you can answer that, and James, I just want to say, talking about CompTIA, what I like about CompTIA, the company, is the culture side of things.
Yeah.
I'm part of what's called the CIN. They call us sinners, but it's the CompTIA
Right.
Instructors Network. And what we do is we banter back and forth with how to actually tweak outcomes of course environments to make it better for your experience. And you talked about mad scientists. I think there's a couple mad scientists in that group that I've been chatting with. So it's all good. But we've got good culture in the background. We're always trying to make you have an excellent experience when we're learning CompTIA classes, and then going from there. And as James said, the course content is actually built by industry experts that have the background for that. James,
Yeah.
we just got another question that popped up for me. I'll read
Okay.
it off. With the rise of AI, would
Mhm.
that diminish the un, unfilled IT and cybersecurity job positions in the future? I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I don't know if it'll diminish, but I know that AI and cyber, they are hand in glove right now.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of people taking Wireshark output and running it through AI to find where anomalies are, and something that a human like myself, it would take me hours to do that. I can just run it through AI and say, analyze this PCAP and let me know what's happening with it. So,
That's right.
James, your ideas on this?
Yeah, yes, that's very much a reality. From a help desk perspective, AI has already been used for a long time. AI, for example, runs chatbots. We've been using chatbots not since just 2018 or 2020 with ChatGPT. We've been using AI to help predict and model people asking questions for a long time, because there's always been a gap between the number of people who are good tech support professionals and the amount of requests coming in. And so we've been using AI for that. What you're seeing now is AI being used in a couple of different ways. That it's being used as a co-pilot, as it were, to help the help desk person more quickly come up with answers. But as far as replacing jobs, you hear about this. I've heard this for years now, but 6 months or less after ChatGPT became a thing, there was some tech company that said, "Well, we had to let go 10,000 workers because of, AI." That's just absurd back then. It's just absurd. Uh, Most organizations are still grappling and coming to use with productive use of AI. So, but what is a reality is that AI is making certain types of things that took hours now minutes, and you can make it much more how should I say, the self-help oriented. So yeah, the beginning bar has been set higher because of AI, but we're not seeing how help desk jobs are going away. But the help desk job is definitely morphing. The more extreme example is 150 years ago, 120 years ago, there were a lot of blacksmiths around. Uh, uh, 20 years later, there were fewer blacksmiths around, but there sure were a lot of auto mechanics, and many more auto mechanics than there were blacksmiths, if you know what I'm trying to say. We're seeing that happen in a much quicker way, where the job role title might change, the ingredients inside that title might change, but we still need help desk folks.
Okay. And Carol, coming to the top of the hour, I think it's time to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for attending. Greatly appreciated you spending time with us. And James, again, thank you very much. We'll have to see what cities you visit in the next few weeks, and we'll go from there. It's always a pleasure having you speak on our behalf. Thank you very much. And to the attendees, yeah, have a look at A+. And if you've already gone through A+ and you want to continue on, absolutely look at Network Plus, look at Security Plus, the CompTIA portfolio, excellent portfolio, great culture, good recognition and vision globally for their certification. And feel free to reach out to us here and James if you had any further questions, and we'd be happy to answer them on your behalf. So, Kara, did you want to close up for us?
Good from my side. I don't know, James, if you want to add something. I don't know if anyone has another question. From my side, I am good. Once we finish, it's fine for me.
Good
Thank you so
question.
much again.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just, I really want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you, everybody. And thank you, Sunset Learning, for inviting us here at CompTIA to join on in.
Great. Thanks all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.